Good evening. We're going to take a look at this little block of code, which is a program I wrote called Mapper. And this is designed to help you pick up the constants if you decide to use motor encoders to navigate the house. So the concept behind this is to put the motors in your robot in float mode, where they're basically free floating, and then read out the values of the encoders as you manually push the robot through the course. And so it'll print out the current values that you need to see right on the screen. And so someone can sit there either with a laptop hooked up to the USB cable, read them off like I'm going to do in this video, or can just use the robot by itself to read the screen. And very quickly you can jot down all of the various distances you need. Now again, you can also navigate using a variable system, which in some ways is safer, but either your choice, try both. So this is MapperBot. So what I've done here is a couple things that aren't intuitively obvious. This command this puts the motors in float mode. But what happens is, because the normal default motor setup will have the motors under a PID control, it's in float mode, but it fights you. So this turns that feature off. So now I have the robot ready to go. Now nothing's going to make the motors move. I put my normal little wait in here to give time for the firmware to work. So what I have now is a sort of a double loop. I have an outer loop that I'll run until I cancel the program, and it's going to reset the motor counters, and it assigns them to the value L and R, so I conveniently have them down here to print up on the screen for you. Then it starts an inner while loop that runs runs as long as the touch sensor has not been pressed. And it just reads the sensor values in one more time and prints them up to the screen and does a short wait. So this is going to keep looping. So as I push the robot through, you'll see the counters get up. And then when I have reached the point where I want to start the next piece of logic, maybe I'm moving from a straight line to a turn or whatever, I can go ahead and press that. I'll press the touch sensor. That's going to bring me up to this while point. I'll reset everything, set it all back to 0, and then wait for the touch sensor to be pressed again. So this is just a quick little loop code. Nothing too fancy here, other than turning off the regulation is intuitively obvious. So if I start this, and again I'll show the robot in a little add-on video I'll tack on to the end of this. You'll see that the values start at 0. And if I just kind of nudge this slowly along my desk, and take the cables out so they're not getting wedged, you can see, whoops, the counters go up. Hopefully the screen flashed there while I bumped it. And so now I've gotten, I didn't push it very straight apparently, but you can get those values. Again, if I were doing this for real, I'd probably put the average in if I had this under control. If your robot's super flimsy, this technique might not work for you. But otherwise, it's a pretty good piece. If I press the touch sensor, I'll get reset to 0. If I want to practice a pivot turn, I just put one finger on top of the tire I don't want to move, and then just kind of push the other tire over. And so it kind of gives me, fairly, for me, that's the 90-degree turn. So pretty simple. Again, I hope that gives you a little bit of a hand. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. So this is our little mapper bot. I went ahead and have it started. Right now I'm reading all zeros. And again, to kind of show you how I would move it through, I'm just going to kind of roll the motors forward. I want to try to go as straight as possible. I'll stop when I get to that point. And so in this case, I read values of 394 and 398. So I would probably set the limit of my code to 396. If I want to practice a turn, what I would do, again, I'll hit the button to reset my counts, get myself squared up, put one finger on top of the tire, and you can kind of roll this tire forward a little bit and figure out how far you need to go. And the nice part about this is if you miss, as long as you haven't moved this, you can work it back, and I get a value in this case of about, looks like 552. So thank you very much. Have a great night.